I think we all remember how jarring it was to watch J.D. Vance stand on a national debate stage and refuse to say that Donald Trump lost the 2020 election. Well, if you thought that was bad and awkward to watch, get a load of this.
Do you believe he lost the 2020 election?
I think there's an obsession here with focusing on 2020. I'm much more worried about what happened after 2020.
Yes or no?
Okay.
Did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election?
Let me ask you a question. Is it okay that big technology companies censored the Hunter Biden laptop story, which independent analysis have said it cost Donald Trump millions of votes?
Senator Vance, I'm going to ask you again. Did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election?
Did big technology companies censor a story that independent studies have suggested would have cost Trump millions of votes?
Senator
I think that's
Vance,
the question.
I'm going to ask you again. Did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election?
And I've answered your question with another question. You answer my question and I'll answer yours.
Every time he dodged that question, he got a little spicy and edgy there. We got another reminder of just how concerned we should be as we approach another election in just 3 weeks. Because 2020 was really just a dry run for what they intend to do this time around. I mean, if Trump loses, they'll once again say he won, obviously. And they will do everything in their power to invalidate a result they don't like. And if new comments from J.D. Vance yesterday about the transfer of power are any indication, they will try to gaslight us every step of the way.
Look, this is very simple. Yes, there was a riot at the Capitol on January the 6th, but there was still a peaceful transfer of power in this country, and that is always going to happen. Donald Trump's committed to it, and so am I.
Totally peaceful, everyone. You know, except for the whole violent coup at the Capitol that he failed to really acknowledge. Joining me now is former acting U.S. Solicitor General November Katyal, friend of the show, one of the favorites. It's great to see you. So let me just start here. I mean, those remarks from J.D. Vance are chilling over and over again, including saying there was a peaceful transfer of power. The vice president doesn't exactly have a technical impact in terms of certifying the election. But what are you, as you look at the potential here, what are you worried he could do?
Well, I think Vance is a barometer for the Republican Party. And you know me, I'm normally a voice of calm, and I'm here not as a voice of calm today. I think that what the vice president said, what Donald Trump has said, what members of the Republican Party have said leads me to think there is a coming massive crisis that's going to occur on November 5th with the election, in which even if Kamala Harris wins the election and wins those battleground states, the Trump team is going to declare victory with J.D. Vance at his side, and they will pressure courts, they will pressure state legislatures, they'll pressure state governors, and they'll pressure the United States Congress to throw out the popular vote and get this election through shenanigan.
Let's just break down each of the components that could have an impact here. I mean, Mike Johnson, the current Speaker of the House, played a role in 2020. No one knew who he was at the time. There is the Electoral Reform Act, which has been passed, but it's imperfect. What could he and others who are Trump acolytes do? Okay, so first of all, remember in 2020, Biden won 306 to 232, so electoral college votes. So when Trump challenged in various states, he had to run the table and win a bunch of states. He couldn't just win one. Right now, as the polls you were showing from at the top of the show showed, it may come down to one state. So Trump only needs to win and flip one place after November 5th in order to have an outsized impact on the election. Now, he can do that, as you're suggesting, in the United States Congress, because on January 6th, they are to count the votes. January 6th, 2025, not 2021. They're to count the votes. And yes, Congress has passed a new law called the Electoral Count Act of 2022, which is to restrict the types of objections Congress can make. But nonetheless, there's a lot of ambiguity in the law. And of course, the Republicans have shown they don't really care about the law. They care about raw power. And so if a simple majority of the House or the Senate say, hey, we don't trust this Michigan vote, or we don't like what happened in Pennsylvania, we don't think it's right, there was fraud, they can attempt to throw out that state altogether and swing the election by themselves and take the vote away from you and me, the American people. And that's what we should be thinking about right now. I wanted to talk to you about all of this because I think it's important for people to know what to watch for. So the other challenge, one of the other challenges is state legislatures, right? Which have become, the people who are Trump acolytes have become a bit more informed, more professional in some ways about this. What are you watching and where are you watching in terms of the state legislatures you're most worried about?
Yeah, so I'm watching state legislatures because any under Republican control can try and do what they did in 2020 and pass a fake slate of electors and send it to Washington, D.C. State governors are now, under this 2022 Act, supposed to be in charge, not state legislatures. But the state governors could be in on it. You could have a partisan governor who says, I'm going to throw out the vote. And so the key point here is Trump may only need to win in any of these places: state legislature, state governor, maybe state election board or county election board, which is what Trump tried at Wayne County, Michigan in 2020, or the courts, or the U.S. Congress. He's got all of these different fora to play. And as you heard from J.D. Vance, if they can't admit that they that they lost in 2020, what makes you think, even with an overwhelming victory by Kamala Harris by Kamala Harris in 2024, that they'll acknowledge it?
Katyal, you have so much expertise, Supreme Court, but I know you've been thinking about this a ton, and I know we'll talk about it more, and I look forward to doing that. So I really appreciate you talking to me about it today.
Thank you so much.
So many of Donald Trump's former cabinet members or senior advisors have sounded the alarm about what he was like in office. That's almost hard to even be surprised anymore. But this week, some comments from former Joint Chiefs Chairman Mark Milley, we've already been talking about it during the show. He's not exactly a lefty progressive, let me remind you, certainly did the job. In his new book, War, journalist Bob Woodward describes a conversation with Milley where he said this, quote, "No one has ever been as dangerous to this country as Donald Trump." He went on to say that Trump is, quote, "the most dangerous person ever. I had suspicions when I talked to you," as in when he talked to him for the book, "about his mental decline and so forth. But now I realize he's a total fascist. He is the most dangerous person to this country." A fascist to the core, Milley repeated to Woodward. "I will never forget the intensity of his worry." Again, this is the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, a man appointed by Donald Trump, who sat with him countless times in the Situation Room, a man intimately aware of the numerous threats facing our country, calling Trump the most dangerous person to this country.